Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So we've reached our final destination. Unfortunately, we did not end up where we wanted to be. This was one exhilarating ride, a magical one that we didn't see coming, but embraced it every step of the way. I told you guys before the season started, this was going to be a roller coaster ride, and that's what it was. It wasn't as many ups and downs as I thought, and twists and turns. Really, we had one adverse portion of the season, right? The 3-game losing streak. But, you know, when you look at this season, week 1, kind of a slap in the face, like a cold dose of reality, right? We came out thinking we were better than a playoff team from the year before in Tampa Bay, and we got a cold bucket of water splashed on our face to wake us the hell up. But that then prompted this team, and it was, you know, it's sort of like, to me, what happened in this NFC Championship game, and we're going to get to that here in a second, but kind of, you know, looking back on the season as a whole, the way we started the season was the way we finished it, with an ass whooping that kind of sends shocks to your senses a bit, but also serves as a motivating tool moving forward. The only problem and difference is we're not going to get to see the fruits of that labor, right? You're not going to see this team be able to learn from this ass whooping right away. You know, we lose in week 1 to Tampa, 37-20, and the very next week you win, and you see this team then go on to win 4 straight and start the season off 4-1, and you got to see the byproduct of that loss in week 1 and how the team responded. We're not going to see this team ever again respond to the loss to Philadelphia 55-23, because this iteration of the Commanders will never exist again. You know, a lot of these players won't be here next year as they continue to build this roster around one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL in Jaden Daniels. And so that's the frustrating part. But it is kind of symmetry if you look at it from that perspective. And to see what we were able to do, to start the season off 4-1, lose to the Ravens, be disappointed about, falling short against one of the better teams in the league, then win 3 in a row, get to 7-2, and then we started talking reckless, and that's when we got hit with another one of those cold doses of reality, right? Harsh dose of reality. It's an evil world out there when you start being get ahead of yourself too quickly. And 3-game losing streak, but that 3-game losing streak helped mold and shape who we ultimately became this season. We did not lose another game the remainder of this regular season and made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. You win your final 5 games of the season. So you had a 4-game win streak, a 3-game win streak, a 5-game win streak to finish out the regular season. That ended up being a 7-game win streak when you total the playoffs as well. 2 massive road playoff victories. This team was amazing this season. And let me say this: if you don't take anything else from today's video, this final episode of Commanders Nightly News for the season, and it's been a hell of a ride. I've never been this far into the season doing Commanders Nightly News. This is episode 22.1. I've never been past 20, let alone 22.1. It's been an amazing ride, an amazing journey. You hate that it ends in crash and burn fashion, but doesn't change the fact that this was one hell of a ride, a magical ride. And this is the biggest takeaway. Whether you remember this season for what it wasn't, which is an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl that didn't, come to fruition, or you remember this season for what it was, this magical journey from a 4-13 team a year ago that was searching for an identity and a direction, to a team that turns it around, goes 12-5, makes the playoffs, and wins 2 big-time road playoff games, including knocking off the number 1 seed in their building while putting up 45 points while doing so, and losing in the NFC Championship, getting to the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991. Whether you remember this season for what it wasn't, or you remember this season for what it was, one thing I can assure you is you're going to remember this season. You'll never forget the 2024 regular season, or season for that matter, of the Washington Commanders. And I'm so glad that we can finally put 2012 to rest. For some of you, it was your fondest memories as a fan. We didn't win a playoff game that year, right? We were 3-6 that year. We had to win 7 in a row just to make the playoffs. Like, as fun of a season as that was, nothing came of it. We were back to being awful the next year. It was nothing but dysfunction and turmoil the following year. It ended in disaster with Robert's knee, shredding, and he was never the same player after that. That season didn't have all the warm and fuzzies for me that it carried for a lot of you, which was fine, though. It was our last real enjoyable season, unless you want to count 2015. Now you can just wipe that away, not necessarily away from the memory bank. But I remember always saying, well, at least we have 2012. Now we got 2024, and we're going to build off of 2024, and we're going to use that as motivation and fuel to drive us into the future, because we see Super Bowls, plural, in the future of this team, as long as 5 is upright and he continues to develop and play the way that we saw him play this year. There's no doubt in my mind that Adam Peters and company are going to build this roster. They're going to put us in a position to compete at a high level. And I talked about this already, and we're going to talk more about this as the offseason progresses. But I've already talked to you guys about this numerous times, including last night when we did our day after reaction. The expectations have changed. There will never be, and I said this before, when we were 7-2, when we were 7-5, when we were 10-5, when we were 12-5, I said there will never be another season like this, ever. Because now there will be expectations. You didn't expect this. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you thought this record. You didn't think, even if you thought we were going 11-6 or 12-5 this year, you didn't think we were going to the NFC Championship game. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm not giving anybody credit for that. You might have had the record correct. You might have predicted, because some of you were predicting craziness. And I was like, man, y'all tripping. Some of y'all predicted 12-5. I can't take that away from you. But you were probably predicting 12-5 in a division win, get you a home playoff game or two. We were on the road. We had to be road warriors. We had to go to Tampa, the 3 seed. We had to go to Detroit, the number 1 seed, and win. You didn't see that coming. And so now things have changed. And I am so anxious. I'm very anxious to see what this team follows up with for an encore. Because we've been here before, where you go into a season with expectations. Not quite like the season that we just turned in and then looking forward to next year. We haven't had one of these before. Not since 1991, right? Maybe 99 was the last time. And I told you that already, that 2000 out. And then they went out and got all those guys, and it was the real first year of Snyder. And so we didn't really know what to expect, but having gone to the divisional round and was a bad snap away from potentially going to the NFC Championship game in 99, and then having all of those veterans come in, Deion Sanders, Bruce Smith, Jeff George, Mark Carrier, et cetera, you just thought, oh my God, here we go, right? And so I think this year is probably very comparable to that year, but the expectations are going to be through the roof. That was the last time, that in 2000 season, that the Commanders, or then the Redskins, were, among the highest in the conference in terms of Super Bowl favorite odds. Next year, I wouldn't be shocked, especially if we go out and we make some big splash moves. Like, you go out and get a T. Higgins, you go out and you get a free agent edge rusher, a corner, or you trade for someone, or you draft a guy relatively high, or you first or second round pick that is an impact player that people view as an impact player. You make a couple of nice signings here and there. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Commanders have the 3rd best odds in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Now that everyone's been able to see what Jaden Daniels is and what he's capable of, and they continue to build around him, there's no doubt that probably after Philadelphia, maybe the Lions again, and maybe the 49ers, we're probably going to be 4th best odds in the conference to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, when's the last time that's been the case? You can't tell me, but I can. 2000. So expectations have changed. There will never be another season like this where, man, I didn't see it coming. If we win the Super Bowl next year, you won't be blindsided by it. If we would have won the Super Bowl this year, you would have been blindsided by that. Hell, we were over there gushing over seeing a backdrop that had the NFC Championship logo on it because we hadn't been exposed to that. Everything was new to us. Everything was sort of a shock to the senses. That won't be the case next year. We're expecting to win games. We're expecting to win the division. We're expecting to get back to the championship game and have different results next year. It's different now. With that said, we can't run from what transpired on Sunday, though. We can't. You got to stand in it. You got to live it, and you got to embrace what happened. And there's only one thing I really truly disagree with DQ, and he and Adam Peters had their exit press conference, and I pretty much was in lockstep with them with everything that they said. The only thing that DQ said that I didn't necessarily 100% wholeheartedly agree with is that you have to get the battle scars in order to win, right? In order to be successful. And yes, battle scars are going to happen. And, in certain sports, I think it's a prerequisite. Like in basketball, you can't win an NBA title by just showing up on the scene and being a hot team that year. You're going to lose to a veteran club that knows how to get it done. And you got to go through those trials and you got to go through those valleys in order to get to the peaks. And in order to have the tribulation, you got to go through that fire, right? You got to touch that fire, get burned, learn that it's hot in order to know how to navigate that path so that you don't encounter that fire the next time, right? Or you can avoid it. That's not the case in football. You don't have to lose to get better and win in the future. But losing does build up that callus that I talked about that we learned in the season when we went through that 3-game losing streak. I think those losses helped us win down the stretch and in the postseason, right? Which is why we just wanted to be in a close game with Philadelphia because we thought we would have a chance to win, and we didn't give ourselves a chance to do that with the turnovers. I disagree that you have to have battle scars in the NFL. You don't have to. But we did pick up a big one here. And a lot of the players, and the thing that, two things that really stuck out to me with this game in particular, before we get into the actual game itself. And we won't spend a ton of time on it because we all watched it. We all lived it. We don't really need to keep rehashing and opening up this wound over and over again. But what I will say is, one, we beat ourselves. And that's the part that is just hard for me to digest and stomach because that's not who we've been this season. And that's what I kept saying during the watch party. That's what I kept telling everybody that was in attendance, people that were watching at home, is that we haven't been this team all season. We don't get blown out. That's not who we are. That's not what we stand for. So we're going to fight and to see 55 points get put up. And that was the part that made this the most painful, was that not only did you lose, because, again, you lose this game, you get it. The Eagles are a really good football team. We knew what we were walking into. We knew it was going to be tough. I wasn't expecting a blowout, right? If we were going to win, it was going to be a close game. So this wasn't going to be Detroit. I was hoping that maybe we could be, ahead late by 3 or 4. Eagles got to go for it on the 4th down. They don't get it. And then we score another touchdown and we win by 2 scores. But that, I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to win. I just wanted a chance. To hell with all of that. Just give me a chance. We didn't even have a chance because of mistakes that we made. You can't turn it over 4 times. That led to 28 points for the Eagles and expect to win. You can't do it. They're a good team. They don't need our help. And we were more than willing to help them, and that was the part that just didn't sit well with me. And a lot of players in the locker room said afterwards that the part that really, hit them like a ton of bricks was the 55 points. Like the blowout nature of this loss is like, we didn't even give ourselves a chance. That's the part. The Eagles scored 21 points in the 4th quarter. Like, we had been dominating teams in the final frame. We beat the Lions 14-3 in the 4th quarter. We beat the Buccaneers 10-3 in the 4th quarter, and we got our asses kicked in the 4th quarter. We were down 11 going into the 4th quarter with a shot. The Austin Eckler fumble hurt. at the end of the third. That was pretty much the death sentence. That was the final death blow, if you will. But we still had a chance to fight in the fourth quarter, and we didn't. And that's the part. And it was the Eckler fumble pretty much deflated us. Any fight you had left, it was dead after that, you know? And I don't blame him. There's only so many times you can get up off the canvas before you're like, okay. I mean, when we were at the watch party, that Austin Eckler fumble, and for the life of me, I still can't understand how that ball was awarded to Philadelphia when we came out of the power with the football. I talked about the double standard. The Eagles had the same thing happen in the very first game of the postseason for them against the Green Bay Packers, where Kyshawn Nixon fumbles on a kickoff return the same way that that was different. Oren Burks lit him up and he fumbles, but he recovered it. He recovered the ball. You can clearly see him recover, yet the Eagles come out of the power with the ball and they award the football to the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't tell you that Zach Bond clearly recovered the football. Even the angle that they show, you don't even see the ball. So you can't even say that he clearly recovered the ball. He was the first one to fall on the ball, but that doesn't mean you recover it when you fall on the ball, right? Our guy came out the power with the football. He's got the ball. How do the Eagles come up with that football? That totally, even with the two previous turnovers, that totally changed the entire trajectory of the game because we were going to score points. We were going to score points. They really hadn't stopped our offense the entire day, other than turnovers. They didn't have stops, real stops, except for one, and we overcame that with a fake punt. They really didn't stop us. We stopped ourselves with turnovers. So we were going to get points. Problem was, Eckler fumbled, and then they somehow awarded the ball to Philadelphia Eagles. I can't explain that, but let's get into the keys to victory. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not pretty. I mean, it's the worst I've ever seen. But when you lose by 32 points, what do you expect, right? So first offensive key was establish the run game and success on early downs to set up third and fourth down conversions. I wanted to average 4.5 yards per carry and 140 yards total rushing in this game. And I wanted to stay out of first and second and long, and we didn't do that. I wanted to stay out of second and third and long, and we didn't do that. We were consistently in long down and distance situations. Now we actually weren't, that bad on third or fourth downs, to be honest with you. But the problem was they set the tone. If I had one criticism of Cliff Kingsbury in this game, it would be the lack of creativity with the run game and the lack of run game early. Like they put the game, which is not a bad thing because if I'm going down, I want to go down with the ball in the hands of my best player. And that's Jaden Daniels. So I totally understand why you come out in the first 8 plays of the game, including a fourth down conversion, are all, Jaden Daniels passes. But I just felt like we needed to establish the run. That was going to be important in this game, especially if you were looking to eat up clock and possess the football and kind of stay in manageable situations, not let the Eagles pin their ears back. You needed to establish the run. And our run game was too bland. Look, you were down Sam Cosmi. You got an injured offensive line with Biotish banged up and Coleman banged up that are fighting through injuries. You're compromised on the offensive line as is. Not to mention the Eagles are way more talented on that side of the ball, on that side of the line of scrimmage than we are. So you have to trick them. I thought we did some really good things against Detroit to trick them. And it seems like when we play the Eagles, we don't try to trick them. We just try to run at them as if it's an easy thing to do. Like they're not a fundamentally sound team that tackles, that runs, that hits. I just thought that it was too bland of an attack on the ground. And it was inconsistent. We didn't even try to attack them on the ground early in this game. So that was one of my biggest pet peeves there. Obviously, we don't get any credit here because we didn't establish, early down success. We didn't establish the run at all. And you know what? it was very fitting that in the biggest game of the season, the guy that led our team in rushing led our team in rushing again. And that shit can't happen next year. Jaden Daniels can't lead our team in rushing next year. He can't. And if it happens again next year, then we have to address the running back position. And I'm talking about our lead tailback. If Brian Robinson Jr. can't lead this team in rushing next year, then he can't be our lead tailback. Because I need someone that can lead the team in rushing so that our quarterback doesn't have to. And it's only fitting that in the biggest game of the season, our running back has 36 yards on 11 carries. Meanwhile, our quarterback has 6 carries for 48 yards and leads the team and scores the only touchdown on the ground in the game. Go figure, right? That was the theme of the season any damn way. So really disappointed there. But, of course, no points, no check mark. Protect Jaden and the Duke. I said no turnovers. 2 sacks were going to be allowed in this game. And he was sacked 2 times. And I said none on third down. I think one of them came on third down. Maybe one of them even may have come on fourth down. The Nolan Smith sack, I think, was on fourth down. So that was a little disappointing. You had the other sack was Jordan Davis, which that shocked the hell out of me because he's not supposed to be getting any sacks on Jaden Daniels. But much like the sack that he got against Cam Hayward, where he kind of ran into the sack instead of running away from a 300-pounder, he ran into that sack. Right? That frustrates me sometimes because if he'd have just kept running to his left, he would have escaped him. He wouldn't have been able to catch him. He could have thrown the ball away. But he tried to get back to his right, the same thing he did against Cam Hayward. He tried to get back to his right, and he ran into the sack. So, obviously, we turned it over 4 times. So that kills anything. You can't give him a half credit, none of that shit. Because when you turn it over 4 times, you kill yourself and you don't give yourself a chance. So obviously no check mark there, no points awarded. The next offensive key was be us, tempo, time of possession, and the others have to step up. So this was all about the T's: tempo, time of possession, and the others. And we went tempo, and it was effective when we weren't turning the damn ball over, but the time of possession was skewed because of the turnovers. Because I think we would have won time of possession had we possessed the football, not turned it over. Those drives would have gone for another 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time because that's what we were doing. Nothing explosive. The Eagles weren't giving up anything explosive, but we were very methodical in our approach. And clearly, we weren't afraid to attempt 4th downs, and they weren't stopping us on 4th downs. Okay, we went 4 of 6 on 4th downs, and the only 2 misses on 4th down came at the end of the game when we were in desperation mode, right? We were 4 of 4 before we missed our first 4th down of the game. So they weren't stopping us on 4th downs either, which is why I say they weren't going to stop us on offense. They were having a hard time stopping us because we were taking what they were giving us. Jaden was doing a great job of eluding the rush. He was under duress a ton in this game, despite the Eagles not blitzing a bunch. But he was finding receivers. We were getting, solid yardage, and we were putting ourselves in manageable down and distances on 3rd and 4th down. And so it was a little disappointing to have the turnovers because we would have won time of possession if those 3 turnovers, because I'm not even counting Jaden's interception at the end. That was in desperation mode, and I blame Terry for that interception. Make a damn play, right? He had 2 opportunities to catch that football once, and he couldn't do it, right? Make a play, right? I wanted to win time of possession by 5 minutes. We lost time of possession by less than a minute, so it was almost even time of possession-wise. I needed the combo of Ozzie, Jamison Crowder, and Diami to have 14 catches, and the rest of those guys, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson Jr., John Bates, whomever else could touch the ball, not name Zach Ertz or Terry McLaurin, to have 14 catches and 150 yards of receiving yards. And while they had 15 catches total, right, they didn't amass 150 yards, so they didn't do their job. And, Diami with the fumble. We just didn't get enough out of the other guys. Simply put, we didn't break enough tackles. We weren't dynamic enough with the ball in our hands. We didn't do enough. Outside of, Terry's catch and run and Zach Ertz's heroic performance, 11 catches, over 100 yards, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough from the others. So obviously no check mark there. Wanted to give us something for tempo because I thought we did a really good job with tempo, but it was overshadowed by the lack of time of possession and others just not doing enough, right? And then lastly, win third downs, win fourth downs, and the red zone. We were 41% on the day on third down, 7 of 17, which again, our first loss of the season when we were over 40% on third downs. But again, that's a direct reflection of the 4 turnovers, you know, 3 really, the 3 turnovers when the game was still in the balance. That's a direct reflection of those turnovers. You don't get any back. You turn it over 3 times and you kill drives, or even the opportunity to have a drive in the case of the Jeremy McNichols fumble. So that's why you don't win the game despite having over 40%, which we had not lost all season when having over 40% on third downs. So we didn't get to 45%, which was our season average. Fourth down, I wanted 75% if we went for it more than 3 times. We went for it 6 times. We just fell short of that. We were 4 of 6, 66%, which again, we were 100% until the end of the game when they knew we had to throw and they were able to just kind of sit back and take everything away. So, you know, we really were excellent on fourth downs. They couldn't stop Zach Ertz on fourth down. He was killing them on fourth downs. But and Jaden was killing them on fourth downs. But that's irrelevant because, you know, we didn't do anything with it because of the turnovers. And then red zone, 3 or 4 or 4 or 5. Well, you got to get there first. We only got to the red zone twice because of all the turnovers, right? We scored a touchdown with Terry on the slant. That was outside of the red zone. The only red zone touchdown that we did score was the Jaden Daniels run where he cut back twice. It was a beautiful touchdown run and got the 2-point conversion. But the other, you know, red zone trip, we had to settle for a field goal on the opening drive of the game. So we only went to the red zone twice. And you know, that wasn't nearly enough, and we knew it wasn't going to be enough going into the game. We were going to have to get to the red zone, you know, 4 times was the number. I said if we go 3 times, 3 would be enough if you had, you know, some field goals to supplement that, but you had to go 3 of 3, right? 3 touchdowns. Then maybe you kick 2 field goals, get 27, kick 3 field goals, get 30, and you could win with that. But you couldn't win with 2 trips to the red zone and one of them being a field goal. You're not giving yourself a chance. And those, again, we are harking back to those turnovers. They killed drives that could have ended up in the red zone, that could have ended in points. And you just don't give yourself a chance when you do that, right? So we got no points whatsoever on offense. We've had some games this season where we had half a point or 1 or 1.5. I don't know if we had a game this season where we had no points on offense. So, yikes. And spoiler alert, that's a precursor to what's coming on defense. So let's get to the defensive keys. First one, start fast, finish in winning time. So I talked about the advantage that we had in the postseason in the fourth quarter and how pivotal that had been to our success. Running away with the game against Detroit with 14 points to their 3, and coming back and winning the game. We were down 17-3 heading into the final frame versus Tampa. We outscored them 10-3 in the fourth quarter, and that's how we won that game. We were dominated in the fourth quarter, 21-0 versus Philadelphia. That's how the game got so lopsided and out of control. Remember, we were only down 11 points heading into the fourth quarter. And again, if Eckler doesn't fumble that football, we're going to cut this to a 1-score game. Right now, the Eagles feel the pressure. Now we got ourselves a ball game. Now they may get tight. Now we might have a shot. Well, that all went to shit when he fumbled, and the defense finally let go of the rope because they fought. Say what you want about the defense. They fought in that third quarter. They got 2 stops in that third quarter. One to start the quarter, and then after we scored the touchdown, another stop to get us the ball back to give us a chance to cut it to a 1-score game. The defense fought. They let the rope go when Austin Eckler fumbled that football, and I don't blame him. And so we needed to start fast. Obviously, the offense tried, but the defense didn't start fast. You gave up a 60-yard touchdown on the first play. I mean, you can't be any worse than that. So, yeah, no points there, obviously. The defense was gearing up to give us a shot, and the offense said, nope, not today. Special teams said, nope, not today. Sorry. Slow down Saquon for 4 quarters was the next defensive key. We knew we weren't going to stop him. We knew we weren't going to do it. We have been one of the worst rush defenses all season, so we knew we weren't going to stop him. could you slow him down for 4 quarters? We had done that before. We'd slowed him down for 1 quarter, for 2 quarters. Hell, we've even slowed him down for 3 quarters before. Never 4. Well, he made sure that that wasn't going to be the case with the first carry of the goddamn game. 60 yards, touchdown. Well, first 2 carries of the game, 2 touchdowns for Saquon Barkley. Well, we're not going to slow him down today, are we? So, I wanted to give us half because I said no Kenneth Gainwell success, none. And we did that. He came in the game and we shut his ass down. But Saquon Barkley killed us. So can't even give us a smidgen of credit for shutting down Kenneth Gainwell because that's what we're supposed to do. He's Kenneth Gainwell. You're supposed to shut his ass down. But the goal all week, we talked about it. Gotta slow down Saquon and you give up a touchdown on the first play. Like, if that's not a tone setter, I don't know what is. Next defensive key. Make Hurts a passer, pressure and sack him, and tackle them on underneath throws. I wanted to give us half credit here because I thought we did a really good job of pressuring him when we did blitz. I thought it took Joe Witt Jr. too long to adjust and adapt. Those weak-ass zones we were playing, which allowed guys to run wide open, that's Jalen Hurts' forte. He doesn't read defenses well. When you play man coverage, he's too tentative because he doesn't want to make a mistake. So he holds onto the ball. Tom Brady outlined it during the telecast several times where he had one-on-one and he refused to cut it loose because he doesn't want to make a mistake because he threw so many picks last year. So he's risk adverse now. He doesn't want to throw it unless a guy is open, and he needs to see them college open. Well, guess what guys were throughout this game? College open, because we were playing soft-ass zone coverage, and he was picking that shit apart. Anybody could pick that shit apart. I wanted to see tight man-to-man coverage. If they beat us, they beat us. And tight, make them make tight window throws. We made them make one tight window throw. And that was the 4th down play, and you got to give him credit. That's a hell of a throw. It was a dime. They got away with a damn holding. That was a molestation on that play. And how that's not called, beyond me. But that's not the point. He made a hell of a throw. That's what you want. 4th and 5, make him make a play with his arm. And he did. I just hate that we didn't tackle well. It was too many yards after contact, too many yards after catch, too many wide open receivers, guys running wide open through zone coverage. We just made it too easy on him. Too easy on him. But I like when we did blitz, when we did pressure, when we did play man, he struggled. He struggled. He only had 8 incompletions on the day. I bet you 6 of them came when we played man coverage and we pressured him. We should have did that more in this game. I thought we were too damn tentative and we were too easy on Jalen Hurts. Make his ass work. That was the frustrating part. I wanted to give us half credit, but we didn't tackle well enough. We didn't tackle well enough. So I couldn't give us shit. A.J. Brown, we're playing 8 yards off of him, soft zone coverage. He catches, he turns around on a hitch and breaks a tackle and gets about 12 on a 2nd and 10. And you're just like, what the, bro? Really? We're going to give that shit up? 2nd and 13 after Frankie Louvu makes a great play in the backfield and you give up, 11 yards because we play soft zone and somebody's wide ass open to set up an easy 3rd down conversion? Like, what are we doing? 2nd and 15 after Frankie Louvu gets a sack or Dorrance Armstrong gets a sack. And you're like, we got to get off the field. We got to get off the field. And Dallas Goedert is running up the left sideline, wide ass open in zone coverage. You're like, bro, what are we doing? Why are we playing zone? That's the only way he's killing us. Stop playing zone. Can't give us credit. Can't give us credit. Last defensive key. Win on early downs to set up 3rd and medium to long and win in the red zone. This shit is laughable. Right? Looking back on it now, win in the red zone. The Eagles went 7 of 7 in the red zone. A far cry from the first 2 times we played them, especially the first one with Hurts in the game, where they struggled in the red zone that night, right? Like, we were ass in the red zone. If I had one complaint of the defense in this game, it was, can you show some resistance in the red zone? And look, you had a stupid-ass penalty by Mike Sainristil that would have been a field goal. They got aided by 2 pass interference penalties. One I thought was pass interference. The Dallas Goedert one he was holding them. That was pass interference. That would have been a third down, and that would have been fourth down, and they would have had to settle for a field goal. He held him. The flag was late, and my thing is, if you're gonna let him play, right? Darius Slay on a third down is mugging our receiver. He hits him before the ball gets there. It pops into the air. They don't throw any flag. But we barely touched somebody, and now it's a flag. That Devontae Smith drop in the end zone, that's not a flag. That was a third down. They should have been selling for a field goal. So the officials definitely helped them. But again, got to show some resistance. You know, they still scored 4 other times outside of the 3 that they were aided with field goals on, aided with penalties on. They still scored 4 other times, including an A.J. Brown, a simple out. Mike Samer still 4 yards in it. Bro, who are you stopping 3 yards and you backpedaling in the end zone? Where are you going? The goal line is right there. Where are you going? I mean, that's an easy throw for Hurts. You didn't make him work. That's all I was ever asking us to do. Make Jalen Hurts work. When he sees the open receiver, he's going to hit him. When he sees any tight coverage, he's not going to throw it because he's scared. Because he doesn't want to make a mistake. Man had 1 touchdown pass in the goddamn game. 1. Make him a passer. That was an easy catch, pitch and catch. Make it tough on him. That's all I was asking for. He's a basic when you make him make tough throws. He's a basic. We didn't make him make tough throws. Not enough of them, at least. I mean, they went 7 of 7 in the red zone. I don't want to talk about third downs, fourth downs, none of that shit. It's irrelevant. They went 7 of 7 in the red zone. They had 6 rushing touchdowns. I don't want to talk about. That's 7 rushing touchdowns. What am I saying? Saquon had a 60-yarder. It's 6 rushing touchdowns in the red zone. I don't want to talk about third downs. I don't want to talk about fourth downs. Who cares? They scored 8 touchdowns in this game. 8! Who cares? Have some respect about yourself. Show some backbone. Can't give up 7 red zone touchdowns. Who you beating doing that shit? Again, you can't beat yourself. Can't have the penalties in the red zone that lead to touchdowns. They would have been kicking field goals. Can't have the turnovers. We beat ourselves. The Eagles played well enough to beat us on their own, but we can't help them. We never gave ourselves a chance. And that's the part, again, that I struggle with because that's not who we've been this season. I can't remember one. I was talking to my buddy on the phone. I said, bro, I can't remember one single unnecessary roughness, hit late out of bounds penalty that this team committed this season. I can't think of one. Can you? I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I just, my mind is like a steel trap. I don't forget much. I can't think of one instance where we got flagged for a late hit out of bounds this season. Not one. Can you? And if you can, I need it. Leave it in the comment section. And then maybe you'll jog my memory. Oh, yeah, okay, I remember that. I can't think of one. To have one in this game? Like, what? Like, we don't do that, is my point. We don't do that. That's stupid shit. We don't do stupid shit. We hadn't done it all year. We waited to the biggest game of the season to do stupid shit. And this is where that young, okay, we're young. We haven't been here before. The fumbles, all the careless shit that we did in this game. We hadn't been here before. And that's when the shit kicked in and was like, okay, all right, it's showing itself now. They've been here before. They've played in the championship game before. Most of the guys that played in the game and played in the Super Bowl, they're still on the roster. So been there, done that. They know how to handle this. We didn't. And that's the battle scar that DQ was talking about. Like, you got to get those. You got to take your lumps. You got to get those battle scars. You hate to have it, to experience it like that, but it might be a necessary evil. Our inexperience showed in this game. It showed. Anyway. 0 points, a big goose egg, a big nothing burger. What'd you expect? We gave up 55 effing points. They scored 8 touchdowns, 7 of 7 in the red zone. What did you expect? What did you expect? What's going on? It's your man Louie T here on behalf of the beautiful people over at VIA who have blessed me with some awesome hemp-based products that I want to share with you. I'm going to talk about some of my favorites today. And the products range from 0 milligrams of THC, so no psychoactive or intoxicating effects, to 100 milligrams of THC, which is going to send you to the moon. If that's what you're looking for, knock yourself out. That's too much for me, but again, to each its own, right? So let's go through these products quickly, and I'll talk about them. And the first one I'm going to talk about is Flow State, and this is one that has no THC in it. This is a focus-driven product here, and I love this one because it gives me the focus that I need sometimes when I may be lagging, I may be a little bit tired from the night before, don't have the juice, the energy that I need. This gives me that focus, that extra kick that I need to get my projects done. This one here is Elevate. Mango Tango is the flavor, and all of the flavors are so delicious, man. For someone who doesn't eat a lot of candy, being vegan, and all of these products are vegan, by the way, so you know I love that as well. I don't get a lot of sweets. These things give me just the right amount of kick of sweet and also the intended effect that I'm looking for. This is a microdose option, 2 milligrams of THC. And this one, again, Elevate. Looking to get you high, if that's what you're looking for, this can do it. And again, it ranges from 0 THC, milligrams of THC, all the way to 100. So you can go with what works for you. Now, having some trouble sleeping, Dreams is one that'll help you out. My wife takes the non-THC version of this sometimes when she's having trouble sleeping, and it works like a charm. And so again, if you're looking for something to help you go to sleep, a sleeping aid, you want to feel a little buzz while you're doing it, that's a microdose option that I just showed you, or you can just get the non-THC version. Now, my two personal favorites, and you'll know why in a second. High Love is my first. This one is 5 milligrams of THC. And again, you can get that all the way up to 100 if you so choose. But you know why I like this one, right? Me and the wife enjoy this one a lot. Yeah? Huh? Yeah? You get where I'm going with this? Maybe? Yeah? No? Maybe? So? I don't know. But the other one is Cloud9, and that's self-explanatory, okay? Cloud9 takes you higher, right? When I'm on the couch on a Friday and I just want to mellow out and I just want to watch TV and relax, this is my go-to right here. Love it, feels great, and it gets the job done every single time. So what says you? You interested? Link up above will take you straight to the VIA website. Use my promo code LouieT for 15% off of the purchase. And again, if you've never been to the VIA website or you've never purchased from VIA before, you'll also get a free gift with your purchase as a first-time user. So again, a lot of benefits. Once again, link is above, right? That'll take you straight to the site. Use my promo code LouieT, and that'll get you an additional 15% off. And if it's your first time, you'll also get a free gift with it as well. So what are you waiting on, man? Looking to have a good time, looking to chill, or just looking for an intended effect? Maybe you need to focus a little bit more. Maybe you're having trouble sleeping. Maybe you need some relief. Maybe you went to the gym. Maybe you got a previous injury and you're looking for some relief. They've got all of those products and then some on their site. Check them out and tell them your man Louie T sent you. You won't be sorry. Trust me. Oy vey. Let's get to in other news, where we heard from both DQ and AP. Before we talk about that, quickly, I wanted to talk about the news that came out today that Cliff Kingsbury was not going to interview for the Saints job. Again, anybody that's been following this, and I've been talking about it ad nauseum on my podcast, but this was common knowledge. He's not leaving Washington, and he said this was the most fun he's had coaching in his life. So, you know, head coach, assistant, college, NFL, he's never had a ride like this before. So he wasn't leaving, and this is the best quarterback he's ever coached. Obviously, he coached, you know, Johnny Manziel, and he coached Patrick Mahomes. But Mahomes wasn't the Mahomes we know now. Then, you know, he was a wild gunslinger running around backyard football at Texas Tech back in those days. If Mahomes was what he is now, he would have went number 1 overall instead of like number 10, right? So Jaden Daniels is a different animal, and he's not leaving Jaden Daniels to go coach the New Orleans Saints, who don't have a quarterback, who don't have a high level leverage pick, and who don't have a bright future. You know, their cap situation sucks. They're not very talented. It's the worst job. I said this, and I'm not surprised that it's the only job that's still vacant. It's the worst job that existed this offseason. Being that the Jaguars fired Trent Baalke, now their job was desirable. They had to pay a lot to fill it, right? But the Saints job it's the Carolina job from last year. They're going to have to give it to somebody. They're not actually going to get someone who is like highly qualified. They're going to have to give it to somebody who wasn't going to be a head coach. More likely than not. Unless they go out and a guy like Mike McCarthy who just doesn't want to be on the sidelines. And if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm not taking a job. I'm just going to trust that my, NFL chops and my track record and my resume speaks for itself. And next year, I'll enter my name back into the fray. This has to be a job for some offensive coordinator that was off the beaten path, did a really good job this year, but nobody was expecting him to get a job. Similar to Dave Canales last year in Carolina with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was their offensive coordinator, did a really good job. Nobody was giving Dave Canales a job. But the Panthers, nobody wanted that job. Dave knew he wasn't getting another job anywhere else. Can't pass this opportunity up, so he took it. That's going to be this, and that's not where, Cliff Kingsbury is. That's not who he is. That's not where he is. He's a hot commodity. He'll be the Ben Johnson of the NFL next year, where he gets to pick his job, a bunch of money, a blank check. He'll be that guy next year. Because Jaden Daniels is going to be that good. This team is going to be that good. He'll be Ben Johnson next year, where he'll get to call a shot. So New Orleans is definitely not in. But I've been adamant about that. We knew once Chicago's job, I told you the only job I thought Cliff was leaving here for was Chicago. Once that was filled, once Cincinnati retained their head coach, Zach Taylor, I was like, oh, we're in the clear. We're good. Because there are only a handful of jobs that Ben Johnson would have taken this offseason. Cincinnati, Chicago, and, if Buffalo had got bounced early and they moved on from Sean McDermott, he would have taken that job, right? Where they had an established quarterback, an elite quarterback. And that would open up the avenue for Cliff to potentially get the Chicago job. But once that Chicago job was filled, I'm like, he doesn't want any of these other jobs. They're not stable. They're not good organizations. Why would he leave here? He's still being paid by Arizona, and he's getting paid by us. He doesn't have to go and collect a third check, or, well, in this case, it would have been a second check. He wouldn't have been getting paid by Washington still. But he doesn't need to go collect another check. For what? He's good here in Washington, and this is all I asked for. I got what I asked for. I just wanted 2 years for Jaden to come in, get settled in, not have to learn a new playbook, and let's see what we can do the second year in this offense. Let's see what we can do in year 2, where there's no thinking, and not that Jaden didn't already have this thing down pat, but now they can put more on his plate. I'm excited about that. But I think we all understood that Cliff wasn't going anywhere once Ben Johnson was inked in Chicago. But just good to know that he's not going anywhere and he'll be back. And we get to run it back next season and see what it looks like. I'm excited about that. But let's go ahead and take a closer look by going and looking at the snap counts. And these are some interesting numbers, and we're going to talk about them. So let's look at the offense first. And remember, I talked about, what these snap counts represent for me, it's bittersweet because on one hand, it's cool to look at these names one final time because a lot of these names won't be here next year. There's quite a few guys that are on this list that we're looking at right now that will not be here next year. And I'll call some of them out as I go through these snap counts. But what it also signifies is, bro, we were playing in the NFC Championship game. And these were guys that were playing meaningful snaps and not just 5 or 7. Chris Paul was playing, 35% of the snaps in the NFC Championship game. What are we talking about here? That's the state of this roster. Chris Paul, who probably hadn't played 35% of the snaps total this season. When you put all 19 games before this one together, he probably hadn't played 35% of the snaps total. And in the biggest game of the season, he's playing 35% of the snaps. Unbelievable. Andrew Wiley, Brandon Coleman, Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish, and Jaden Daniels. Well, Wiley, Coleman, and Allegretti played the entire game. Biotish came out after. Look, I mean, can we talk about some of the dirty shit? I might save that for the Commanders Kings. We got to talk about some of the dirty shit the Eagles. Like, this is why I hate the Eagles. Like, I hate them more than the Cowboys. It's not even close now. Like, Jalen Carter is dirty, right? He's a dirty fucking player. Right? And I just want somebody to knock the shit out of his ass one time. And he was talking shit to Jaden too. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a bitch. He's a fake tough guy. He's a bitch-ass player. I can't stand him. I want somebody to knock the shit out of his ass. I don't want to hurt nobody. But I just want somebody to rock his ass one time, ear hold the shit out of him. He don't see it coming, and I just want somebody to just go and deplete his ass. And then stand over him and let your nuts hang over his shit. I'll take 15 for that. He a bitch. I can't stand him. All right? I hate the Eagles, bro. With every fiber of my being. Not because they're good, because they bitches. That's why. They fans is bitches. They players are bitches. I can't stand the Eagles. Like, it's a real rivalry. And the players clearly don't like them either. You saw how physical the game was. You saw we was getting into it with them. Like, it's on now. You wanted a rival, you got one now. Jaden didn't finish the game. They put Mariota in late, which was the right thing to do. Game was over. No reason to have him in there still. Terry, as he always does, he's played the most snaps of any skilled position player not named Jaden Daniels. 68 snaps, 86%. Zach Ertz was just fantastic. I mean, if you had any doubts whether Zach Ertz needed to be back, I think this put it to rest, man. He said he wants to be back. He needs to be back. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not telling you that should stop you from drafting a tight end. If you don't love John Bates, fine, don't bring him back. But you need somebody to block. And it ain't Ertz at this point in his career, and it ain't Ben Sinnott, right? Not that he can't, but it ain't Ben Sinnott. So I'm all for drafting a tight end. I'm all for it. You want an athletically gifted dude that can block as well? I'm all for it. Because Ertz ain't going to be here forever. He said he wish he was 22. Well, he ain't. He wish he was 22 so he could spend his entire career with Jaden and DQ, but he ain't 22. He 34. So, like, I want him back. But keep in mind, he said, I played the most games I ever played in my career at the age of 34. I feel good. Great. I'm glad you feel good, but you also will be 35 next year, and we need to have a contingency plan in place. So I'm all for drafting a tight end, but I do want him back because he knows how to get open, he knows how to win, and he's super reliable. De'Ami Brown, I know y'all heard what De'Ami said, but just in case you didn't, De'Ami said he would like to be back, but you know, it was a real non-committal, I would like to be back. Almost to the point where he kind of like reading the tea leaves like, yeah, I probably won't be back. But I'm cool with it coming back, but gotta see what happens. He knows he probably ain't gonna be back. And this hasn't been a great, ride for him. This year was, right? He learned a lot. I think he grew as a player this year. And if we saw this De'Ami Brown for the last 3 years, right? There would be no question if he would be back. But it's 1 year, and we'll see what happens at the receiver position. Somebody gonna give him some run if it is not us. We'll find out how they feel about him, because if they just let him sit, he may ultimately be back. But if they just let him sit at the beginning of free agency, that means they don't want him back. So Olamide Zaccheaus played 57 snaps. I think he was gonna be back. That's DQ, one of his favorite dudes. Even if he don't necessarily make the roster, he'll be back here to compete for a roster spot. I don't see how he's not one of the 5 or 6 receivers. They probably gonna keep 6 receivers. I just can't see how he's not one of the 6 receivers they keep next year. We only got 2 under contract going into next year. Just Terry and Luke McCaffrey. That's it. Can't see how Olamide Zaccheaus isn't back. Even if you go out and sign a T. Higgins and you draft another receiver, that's 6 with Olamide, right? I don't see how OZ's not back. Not with the way DQ feels about him. Trent Scott, 51 snaps, 65%. I look, it's hard to find quality, versatile offensive linemen in the league. Trent Scott was that for us. He's more than welcome to come back here. If we can't find an upgrade over him and Cornelius Lucas, both of them are more than welcome to come back. More than welcome. Austin Eckler, 47 snaps for 59%. Eck was excellent, especially as a kick returner this year. He signed a 2-year deal, so technically speaking, he's under contract. But it was only 2 years, $7 million. So I'm pretty sure they could get out of this thing no worse for the wear. As far as I'm concerned, there's no reason to part ways with him right now. But you already know how I feel about the running back position. We have to add speed. Have to. That's a must. That's non-negotiable. Brian Robinson Jr., 41 snaps, 52%. Chris Paul, like I said at the top, like if he's playing 28 snaps in the NFC Championship game, 35%, that's the state of your roster. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. The fact that we were in this game with, and we get the same thing on the defensive side too. It's just not limited to the offense. It's an indictment of this roster, but again, it speaks to the coaching staff. It speaks to this team, their brotherhood, and it speaks to Jaden Daniels and his talent that we were even in this position. The likes of Chris Paul playing 35% of the snaps in the biggest game of our season? Unbelievable. Jamison Crowder played 23 snaps, 29%. John Bates played 21 snaps for 26. John Bates with some catches in this game. John damn Bates with a key catch early in the game on a 3rd down, right? Shit. Look at John Bates. Might be his last game as a Commander, but he went out with a bang. Luke McCaffrey, 12 snaps, 15%. Marcus Mariota, those final 4 snaps. Ben Sinnott, 1 snap. Jeremy McNichols, 1 snap. Michael Dieter, 1 snap. And McNichols can go, And it sounds harsh because of the fumble, but we needed to upgrade the running back position. Who's the most likely guy to be out if they were only keeping 3 running backs? Jeremy McNichols, right? If they keep 4 backs, then it'll be between him and Chris Rodriguez. But assuming that Eck and B-Rob are back, which we have no reason to assume that they wouldn't be, and you draft a back, I'm assuming you drafting somebody with some speed at this point. Like somebody asked me about Cam Scatterbull. What? Why the hell do we need to add another, slow-footed back to this backfield? Why the hell would I want a guy that runs a 4.8 in my backfield? The hell, what the hell would I be doing with a Cam Scatterbull? Get the hell out of here with that shit. We need speed, not a bruiser. This ain't 1983. I don't need John Riggins. And Riggins was like a 4 or 5 guy, by the way, not 4.8. The hell I'm going to do with a Cam Scatterbull? Scatterbull out of here. So that's offense. Now let's get to the defensive snaps. And Chin, Wagner, and Louie played 100% of the snaps, which has been a theme throughout the season. With those 3, and we've seen instances where Quan Martin's played all of the snaps. But Wagner, Chin, and Louie have been mainstays. Mike Samer still played almost the entire game, 70 snaps for him. He was outstanding this year. I know it wasn't one of his better games. This, had the bad penalty, gave up the touchdown to A.J. Brown playing off too far. Thought he was off too often, too soft the entire game, not wanting to give up anything deep. But he battled his ass off all season, man. He didn't tackle well in this game, not one of his better tackling games. But he was awesome for us in his rookie season, man. Love Mike Samer still, and the future's so bright for him. Marshawn Lattimore, 61 snaps, 86%. I know you all heard. We'll talk about what Adam Peters said about Marshawn Lattimore and his future here. And I didn't think that was in question, but there's a lot of people, I think he's washed. Okay, all right, we'll see about that. Quan Martin, 60 snaps, 85%. Jonathan Allen, 55 snaps, 77%. Noah Igbenogany. Hey, I want him back. Like, I don't want him starting next year, but if you tell me that he's your first backup off the bench as a nickel, what? Noah Igbenogany was so effing solid this year. Are you kidding me? Yes, he needs to be back. I don't want him back. I need the general back. I told you, he wasn't State Farm, he wasn't Allstate, he wasn't Geico or Progressive. But I said, damn if he won't the general. And damn if he won't the general this year. He was exactly what we needed when we had to push Mikey outside. He was great insurance. Carl, this is the one, right? Defensively, biggest game of the season. A guy that's not even on the active roster, a guy that was on the practice squad all year, that got some run late in the season due to injuries, but in the biggest game of the season, Carl Davis. Yes, Carl mother effing Davis. Carl's Jr. 46 snaps, 65% of the snaps. The second most on the defensive line. Not Johnny Newton, your second round pick. Carl Davis, ladies and gentlemen, in the biggest game of the season is playing 65%. That is the state of this roster. Yes, Deron Payne was hurt. You don't have anybody better than Carl Davis? That's the state of the roster. We'll never be here roster-wise again. Thank God. Biggest game of the season, and Carl Davis is playing 65% of the snaps. How dare you? That's an insult to all of our intelligence, watching Carl Davis do nothing for 65% of the snaps. Did he even record a tackle in this game? My guess would be no. If he did, 1. Non-factor. Carl Davis. Wow. Jalen Holmes, and I thought Jalen Holmes came in and played well for us. Former Titan, so Lake Taylor Titan that is. Shout out to the Titans. He can't be playing 40 snaps, 56% of the snaps in the biggest game of the season. Again, this roster will never look like this again. Thank God. Thank the almighty upstairs. This is an embarrassment. You want to know why we didn't get more pressure? You want to know why we didn't stop the run well enough? Because these are the guys that were on the field. Dorrance Armstrong had 41 snaps. He played his ass off again, had another sack in this game. He came on like game busters. I told you, moving him inside was the best thing that they did all season because that's where he is at his best. But his sack came off the edge. His sack came turning the corner on Jordan Mailata. So shout out to Dorrance Armstrong, who really picked that shit up at the end of the season. Cleveland Farrell, again, Cleveland Farrell hasn't played 48% of the snaps since like week 2 of the season. This man played 34 snaps. Cleve usually plays like 13 snaps in a game. The biggest game of the season, we got Cleveland Farrell out here playing 48% of the snaps. Again, I can't make this shit up, man. And I get that there were some guys banged up and things of that nature, but this roster is going to improve. It's going to improve. Johnny Newton, I need more from him next year. 28 snaps, 39% in a game of this magnitude with Deron Payne being out. He needed to be the one to step up, and they didn't trust him. They didn't trust him to do anything in this game. Sheldon Day and Javonte John Baptiste both played 22 snaps, 31%. Dante Fowler, only 16 snaps for him, which is really disappointing, but this was because they expected a heavy dose of the run. We needed his pass rush. But you got to stop the run in order to be able to have some fun and rush the quarterback. He needed to play more than 16. That Cleveland Farrell took his snap count. They flip-flopped, rather. They swapped numbers. And that couldn't be in this game because we needed Dante Fowler's energy, his ability to make a tackle for loss in the backfield, his ability to draw a holding penalty, his ability to get to the quarterback. We needed that. And because we didn't trust his ability to stop the run, he couldn't play in the game. And so we had to put a guy that was a non-factor in both the run and the pass, and Cleveland Farrell on the field for 34 snaps. You want to know why we were ineffective largely for most of the game? Look at the guys that played in the game. That tells the story. Benjamin St. Juste played 10 snaps. Percy Butler played 9 snaps, and Michael Walker's played 6 snaps. So you see why we struggled in this game. Defensively, you look at the guys and the list of guys that had to play, and you understand why there's a ton of work that needs to be done this offseason. Anyhow, let's just talk about what was said by the head coach and Adam Peters, our general manager, real quick, and then we'll get out of here. So, look, DQ talked about battle scars, and, you hate to have to, get them like this and earn them like this, but, nobody wants to lose by 32 points and give up 55. Like, that ain't, I don't want that kind of scar. But you know what this probably is going to do? And a lot of the guys in the locker room said this after the game. Like, the deficit that they lost by and the amount of points they gave up was not indicative of who they've been this season, which is what I've been saying. And so that's going to fuel them and motivate them this offseason. And I hope it motivates them to the point where we get back here and, maybe we take it out on the Eagles during the regular season. Maybe we don't. But I just want to get back to this point again and right or wrong, right? And I never want to see Sean Hockley in a big game again. We're going to get him in the regular season. You can't run from him. I just don't want to see him in a postseason game again. And he was terrible. And I know this wasn't his crew, but he's awful. He's awful. And I definitely don't want to see him against the Eagles. Shit. I mean, can it be more obvious? That's why they're 7-0 now with Sean Hockley officiated games. We wanted to break that streak. There ain't no way you breaking that streak when he's doing what he did in this game. My goodness. That was rough. I mean, you're staring right at a holding penalty on a critical 4th and 5, and you stand there and do nothing. Yikes. You award the ball to the other team, yet we come out of the pile with the football. I mean, it can't get any more egregious than some of this shit. I mean, okay, so you give us a 5-yard penalty for an encroachment on Jalen Carter, but we ignore the fact that you just poked this man in his entire eye and he's got to leave the game, right? He slapped him in the face twice in the game, and we're just not going to do anything about it. Yet, we get into a scrap down by the goal line, and you call Marshawn Lattimore for unsportsmanlike conduct, but not A.J. Brown. It was bad. This game was bad. It was poorly officiated. But that's not why we lost. Just stating the obvious, right? So, DQ talked about, earning the scars, and he talked about the season that was. He's like, I can't reflect on it right now. That's not where my head is. But, we set a standard, and he's like, we elevated the floor, right? But we haven't even gotten close to our ceiling. Duh. That's apparent, right? But, we've set a standard, and, the players absolutely bought in. And all those stands that they have around the facility, the anybody, anywhere, anytime, the only fight that matters is the one that we're in. And all the other sayings that they have around, they live by that. Those are creeds that they live by. And he said that, that was really great to hear a lot of those players reflect on that. And he said, he talked about this not being a rebuild. He said it wasn't a rebuild because a rebuild means tearing everything down and getting rid of people who were here that were good people that needed to be a part of this thing as they move forward. He's like, when you rebuild, you get rid of everything. You tear it all down. And we weren't looking to do that. We were recalibrating. There were some good people here like Tressway, like Terry McLaurin, like some people behind the scenes. He's not our guy, but that's Adam Peters' guy, Mark Mayhew. And so everybody didn't have Doug Williams, for instance. That's a better example. Doug Williams didn't need to go anywhere, right? You're rebuilding, you're tearing it down. Doug Williams, gone, right? No, we're recalibrating because Doug Williams is going to be here, right? Mark Mayhew is going to be here. Terry McLaurin's going to be here. Tressway's going to be here, right? Jonathan Allen's going to be here. Maybe. We'll see, right? But you get my point. Jeremy Reeves going to be here. So he talked about that and, how this one stings, but it's motivation for the future. And Adam Peters, he talked about Marshawn Lattimore and said that, he came into a tough spot, came here injured. Now you're trying to play catch up because you're already behind the 8 ball. Then you come in here and you got to acclimate yourself to your teammates, to the defense, yet you can't play because you're hurt. And so, him being yo-yoed back in and out of the lineup, it was tough. But we saw flashes of him playing really well. And he's like, I can't wait to see him with a full offseason, with a full runway, healthy, learning this defense from the ground up, and really, being able to take to what they're going to ask of him. And so I expect him to be better next year. Point blank, end of discussion. Some people have their reservations about him. And that's fine. I can't tell you how to feel. But he's a part of the solution, not the problem. You go get a guy opposite of him so you kick Mikey inside and let's go to work, right? Let's go to work. So he talked about that. And he talked about this season. And DQ said something. No, that wasn't DQ or Adam Peters. But Adam Peters said he wasn't prepared for this season to be over. None of us were. We were all talking about New Orleans. We were all talking about the Super Bowl. None of us thought that this was when the ride ended. Right, we didn't want this thing to end, and we didn't think it was going to end, especially not in that fashion. But, he thanked everybody that was a part of this season, from the players to the staff to the fans. DQ even acknowledged the game that really stuck out to him was the Atlanta game. And remember, I told y'all that you could feel it through the TV. That game was electric. People that were there talked about the electricity from that game. It was a night game. They turned the lights out. They had the flashing lights at the stadium. And we were down 10, but he said that the fans rallied behind the players as they went in at halftime, down 10, and that gave them juice. He said Tress Way talked about it. So just a lot of, good things that were established in this first year. And now you carry those things over. Now there's a true commander standard, right? Now there is something that these players can say, hey, if you're going to come here, this is how we do it. And that hadn't existed before. And I said that the Jaden Daniels effect is real. Here's a great example of that. Frankie Louvu said after the game and his exit presser that he's already been hit up by a bunch of players that want to come here in the offseason, that want to come and sign and play for the Commanders. Like, it's different now. And again, it's going to be different. Marcus Mariota said that he'd love to be back, but he also is from the West Coast and he'd like to be closer to his family. And he wants a chance to start. I already told you he was one and done here. His job was to come in here and mentor Jaden Daniels. He did that. And now I think they've already got their quarterbacks, all three of them already here in the building. Jeff Driscoll will be the new backup next year. And I think Sam Hartman will be the third string quarterback. I think all three of them make the roster. Hartman will be inactive, all season next year. Unless something happens where he has to be activated. But Driscoll will be the backup, the primary backup. I don't see them going out and paying a backup because at this point, you don't need to spend more money at that position when you already got a guy in Jeff Driscoll that could come in and be really solid for you, move the offense, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think this quarterback room is going to look like. I don't think Mariota's going to be back. We have plenty of time to talk about who will or won't be back. John Keim gave us an update on Noah Brown. He's, up and working out now, but he was never coming back this year. He wants to come back. Obviously, who doesn't want to come back? We'll see what happens with him. If you sign a T. Higgins, I wouldn't mind bringing a Noah Brown back because if T. Higgins is out, you need a T. Higgins replacement in terms of a guy that offers you that size so you don't just lose all of that size. Like, he's not T. Higgins. Obviously, we're well aware of that, but you want that size and that target that you can still throw the football to in the event that T. Higgins has to miss games, because I don't know if I've seen T. Higgins play a full, 16, 17 game slate in his career. So you got to assume he's going to miss a game or 2 or 3 or 4 throughout the course of the year. You just like to have a guy like Noah Brown, be there for you. And Noah Brown plays a mean special teams as well. So he adds value even if he's not playing significant snaps. So I wouldn't mind seeing Noah Brown come back, but that's for them to decide. We'll figure it out, but upgrades definitely have to be made, and they will be made. And, Adam Peters said that they're going to do everything in their power to put this team in the best position to succeed. Obviously, they're in a different spot than they were last year from the standpoint of last year you were just trying to fill out the roster, right? Find good veterans. And he said the key is finding guys that fit. He said the reason that this thing worked the way that it did and it came together as quickly as it did is because they found guys that fit what they were looking for, guys that established themselves as not only wily veterans that could set a great example in the locker room that others would follow, but that ended up helping them set the commander standard. And so he's like, we're looking for more of those types of guys. And we've seen around the league when locker rooms implode and guys are pointing fingers, or, you got to suspend a guy or you got to trade a guy because he's a malcontent. We don't have any of that shit. We just had a big, gigantic brotherhood that allowed us to maximize the talent that we did have. We were far from the most talented team in the league. We had no business being in the NFC Championship game based off of talent alone. But because we were well coached, we had a brotherhood, so this team banded together and played for one another. And then you have, of course, the quarterback, the centerpiece of all of this. We were able to exceed all expectations and any expectations that you could have had for this team based off of paper with this roster. So Adam Peters has an exciting job in front of him to build this roster up. And we've got nothing but the utmost confidence in him based off of what he did a season ago to put us in the position that we were in this year. I got nothing but the utmost confidence. And I think I can speak for you when I say you've got nothing but the utmost confidence in his ability to put us in a position to get right back here again next year and then have different results when we do get there. So that's pretty much it. I know that was a pretty long episode, but you knew we were going to close this thing out with a bang. And yeah, that's not the ending to the season that we wanted. Obviously, what a hell of a ride it was, though, one that we'll never forget. And as I said, you know, whether you remember this season for what it wasn't or you remember this season for what it was, one thing I can assure you is that you'll remember this season. You'll never forget the 2024 Washington Commanders and what they were able to do, because I think this group just set the foundation for us winning 4 or 5 Lombardi trophies over the next 12 years. At worst case, competing for at least 3 or 4 of them. How many we actually win and hoist, I can't tell you. But this group this year set the foundation for us playing in the Super Bowl multiple times over throughout the duration of Jaden Daniels' career. We'll see what happens in the future. But what a season. What a season indeed. And what a season for Commanders Nightly News. And I want to thank everybody who has supported every episode of Commanders Nightly News and been a part of this ride. It's been fantastic. It's, again, one I'll never forget. And looking forward to doing it again next year. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I'll see you next year on Commanders Nightly News. Take care, raise hell, and remember, anybody, anywhere, anytime. It's different, y'all. It is different. It feels different, rather, because it is different. And this season was definitely different. I'll see you around. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the